What happens when a nation's economic lifeline becomes its greatest vulnerability? In the stillness of the night, far beyond the front lines, a distant roar shattered the silence, an explosion that wasn't just heard, but felt across an entire continent. Flames tore through the darkness at the Kurishi oil refinery, Russia's second largest refinery, as Ukrainian drones struck deep into Russian territory. Over 800 kilometers from Ukraine's border, an industrial giant that processed more than 20 million tons of oil annually was suddenly ablaze. This wasn't a random strike. This was a calculated dismantling of the very machinery that powers Russia's economy and sustains its war machine. And this is only the beginning. For decades, Russia's energy empire has been the beating heart of its global influence. Oil refineries like Kurishi didn't just produce fuel, they minted political power. Up to 70% of the refinery's output once flowed to international markets, including Europe. But in a single night, Ukraine struck a blow that will ripple far beyond the battlefield. The Kurishi facility supplies the bustling metropolis of St. Petersburg and vast swathes of the Leningrad Oblast, providing jet fuel, diesel, gasoline, and more to both civilians and the Russian military. And yet, despite Russia's official reassurances that only drone debris caused the fire, the inferno told a different story. One of a strategic strike designed not to make noise, but to make an impact. This attack wasn't an isolated act of defiance. It was part of a relentless campaign that has quietly escalated over the past few months. In August alone, 9 major refineries were hit, stripping away roughly 20% of Russia's refining capacity. By mid-September, that number has surged to 14 successful strikes, a pace that threatens to eclipse even August's devastation. Each attack isn't just destroying steel and concrete, it's strangling the flow of fuel that Russia depends on to move tanks, supply jets, and fund its economy. And this is where Ukraine's strategy becomes chillingly clear. Rather than trying to match Russia tank for tank on the battlefield, Ukraine is attacking the fuel that keeps those tanks moving. Imagine the cascading effect. Every refinery that goes offline forces Russia to reroute fuel, disrupt supply chains, and absorb skyrocketing costs. It's not just about fire and smoke, it's about starving the war machine from within. The audacity of these operations is staggering. Ukrainian drones are no longer just hovering over the front lines, they're penetrating 1,700 kilometers deep into Russian territory, as seen in the strike on the Permkrei's Metafrax chemicals plant. That facility isn't just an industrial site, it's a critical producer of RDX and PETN, high-grade explosives that the Russian military relies on. By targeting the sources of these materials, Ukraine is cutting off the munitions pipeline at its source. While refineries fuel the Russian army's movement, chemical plants like this enable its firepower. Destroying them disrupts the production of bombs, artillery shells, and missiles. It forces Russia into a reactive posture, diverting resources, tightening security, and scrambling to protect infrastructure that was once thought untouchable. But the strikes don't stop with drones. Inside Russia itself, resistance partisans are joining the sabotage campaign. Just recently, they derailed railway lines in the Chuvash Republic, railways that carry ammunition and military supplies. This is a multi-layered offensive: drones from above, saboteurs from within, and relentless disruption that leaves no part of Russia's war economy secure. Each successful attack chips away at more than infrastructure. It erodes the image of invulnerability that the Kremlin tries to project. It tells the Russian public and the world that no distance is safe, no facility beyond reach. And here lies the deeper significance. These strikes are not just military acts, they are economic warfare in its purest form. Oil has long been the foundation of Russia's geopolitical power. Revenues from energy exports bankroll its military campaigns, stabilize its currency, and fund state operations. By hitting refineries, Ukraine isn't merely inflicting temporary damage, it is undermining the economic pillars that hold Russia's war effort together. Consider this: when Kurishi went up in flames, it wasn't just fuel production that stalled, it was billions of rubles in export revenue evaporating into smoke. This weakens the ruble, squeezes the federal budget, and reduces the funds available to pay soldiers, buy weapons, or even maintain basic infrastructure. And the global market watches. Every time a refinery burns, insurance costs on Russian energy shipments rise, foreign buyers hesitate, and logistics networks falter. The economic isolation intensifies, not through sanctions, but through sheer attrition. There's another layer of pressure building silently inside Russia, the psychological toll. These attacks are public spectacles of vulnerability. Russians in cities hundreds of kilometers from the front are suddenly witnessing fires in the night sky, sirens wailing, and state media scrambling to downplay the damage. This breeds anxiety, uncertainty, and doubt in the government's ability to defend its own heartland. For years, the Kremlin promised that the war would remain distant, contained beyond Russia's borders. But now, the war is igniting their own skyline. The illusion of safety is crumbling, and with it, public trust. And this momentum is accelerating. In just the first half of September, 5 major refineries were struck, keeping Ukraine on track to match or even exceed the August wave. If another 20% of refining capacity goes offline, Russia will face a crisis it cannot easily solve. Unlike tanks or artillery, refineries cannot be rebuilt quickly. Repairing them takes months or even years, and Russia is running out of time. This is why these strikes are so devastating. They create long-term economic wounds that cannot be patched overnight. Every destroyed pipeline, every scorched fuel tank sets back production timelines, disrupts exports, and widens the gap between Russia's military ambitions and its actual capabilities. The sheer distances involved reveal just how much Ukraine has evolved. These drones aren't improvised tools anymore. They are part of a coordinated, long-range strike apparatus operated by Ukraine's specialized unmanned systems forces in coordination with special operations units. They're flying hundreds and sometimes thousands of kilometers, evading radar, bypassing defenses, and hitting critical targets with surgical precision. This signals something profound. Ukraine is no longer just defending. It is projecting power deep into Russian territory, reshaping the strategic map of this war. No refinery, no weapons plant, no supply hub is beyond reach anymore. Russia's official statements paint a picture of calm control, insisting that 3 UAVs were destroyed and that fires are minor. But the growing frequency and intensity of these strikes tell another story. Russia's air defenses are stretched thin, and its critical infrastructure is exposed. Even Romania, a NATO member, reported a Russian drone violating its airspace amid this chaos, a sign that Russia's drone war is growing reckless as it scrambles to respond. While Moscow tries to frame these events as minor incidents, the strategic reality is clear. Ukraine is dictating the tempo, forcing Russia into an exhausting and expensive defensive posture. This campaign also exposes a fundamental truth about modern warfare. Wars are no longer won just on the battlefield. They're won in the factories, the fuel depots, and the financial markets. By striking at Russia's economic arteries, Ukraine is rewriting the rules. It's proving that you don't need to occupy territory to shift the balance of power. You can collapse the logistics that make territorial control possible. And this has profound implications beyond this war. It shows smaller nations facing larger adversaries that precision and persistence can neutralize even the mightiest war machines. It shows that economic sabotage, not sheer firepower, can decide conflicts in the 21st century. What's unfolding now is not just a series of drone attacks. It's a systematic dismantling of Russia's war economy, piece by piece. Every refinery that burns shrinks the Kremlin's options. Every railway sabotage frays the supply chain. Every chemical plant struck drains the ammunition stockpile. And the longer this continues, the more Russia's vast war machine begins to rust from the inside out. Tanks will sit idle without diesel. Jets will be grounded without fuel. Artillery will fall silent without explosives. And even the illusion of economic stability will unravel as export revenues plummet and domestic shortages mount. Ukraine has found Russia's pressure point and is pressing harder with each passing week. The world watches the explosions, but the real story is invisible. The slow collapse of the economic foundation that sustains Russia's war. And when that foundation finally crumbles, it won't be marked by a single dramatic battle or headline. It will come as a quiet implosion, an empire of oil brought to its knees not by invasion, but by precision, patience, and relentless disruption from the shadows. This isn't just about refineries going up in flames. This is about an entire economy being methodically dismantled, one strike at a time.